Hey there, this is Nick from Income Digs. Welcome to this video tutorial. We're talking about QuickBooks Online, and we're talking specifically about managing your real estate accounting in QuickBooks and using classes, and how drawing up a balance sheet by class might get a little confusing. This exact topic also applies to if we're talking about customer. Okay, so this is really answering one of the most common questions we get when we talk about doing a two-dimensional chart of accounts within QuickBooks. And if you're not exactly sure what I'm talking about on that, we have some links to some of those other videos. This is a pretty advanced topic. It kind of comes up as you're using the system a little bit. If you're in Real Estate Accounting Boot Camp, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to tracking your property values and debt by property. Okay, so we're able to do that by using class, but a lot of confusion comes up when the bank accounts start to get thrown off a little bit. So I want to talk about that today and really discuss why it happens and how we can carry on with our business with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a balance sheet as of 2017. The only reason I'm doing that is because I know it's fresh. There's nothing in there. I'm recording this in 2023, but I just want to bring up a balance sheet as of 2017. It's almost completely blank. All I have going on is cash in my checking account and owner's equity. So this is the equivalent of me from my personal account writing a $100,000 check to the business. It goes into this account, and this business, that's all it has going on right now. Okay. Now, I'm going to put on my balance sheet the purchase of a property. Okay, that property for our demonstrating purposes is 122 Buffalo Street. So if I display columns by classes, you're going to note that I'm kind of pretending that this $100,000 that I invested was for this property. So I tagged it as such. Now, it doesn't have to be, but just for demonstrating, I put it there. What I want to do now is I want to just add the property to my balance sheet. Okay, so we're going to assume that we're purchasing this property. As is the case, every purchase, I want you to use a journal entry. Okay, if you haven't seen any of the videos on that, I recommend starting there. This is, again, kind of advanced technique where we've already got properties on our books. And what I'm just going to get to a point of demonstrating what happens when we're trying to track by class. So we're going to put this property under our fixed assets. We're going to start with building. We're going to do land. Now I'm not going to depreciate this, so I'm just going to put in my parent accounts, building, land, and closing costs. Okay. I'm going to keep this super simple. I'm going to say that this property was worth $250,000. The building is worth $200,000. The land is worth $50,000. And I had $6,500 in closing costs. Now, this is all for 122 Buffalo, so I'm going to put my class here. If you're using customer, that's okay. You're going to put that in the name field here. Okay, now how did I pay for this? Now, some of it was cash. Not all of it, though. Let's say that I paid $50,000 in cash. Now, I could put, and I should right now, put 122 Buffalo Street, and then the rest was from a loan. So let's say that it's first position mortgage. Conventional loan, first position, $206,500. Probably had some other stuff here, but let's keep it as simple as we can. We're just tagging the class there, everything. Save and close. I want to see this property show up on my balance sheet. Okay, so now I have $50,000 less in cash. I purchased this property, so it's worth $256,500. I have this loan showing up on my balance sheet, and my equity stayed the same. Now, because I tagged everything with a class, when I display columns by classes, I'm going to see that class show up there. Perfect. Everything looks good, right? I'm going to save this customization just so I have it. Okay. Now, let's say that I make a payment on this loan, okay? If I make a payment on this loan, the money's going to come out of my checking account, and it's going to go toward the loan, and some of it's going to be interest. Okay, so how do we record that? Well, we could record it as an expense, and this is probably a common way we're going to do it. We're probably going to see it come through our bank feed, and we're going to either categorize it there, in which case it's going to create an expense, or we're going to record that expense preemptively with either an expense or a bill. So it's going to come from this checking account. Let's say that it's 3/1/2017. Okay, I'm not using products or service. I'm going to say my first position loan. So that's going to be my principal, and then my interest expense is going to be down here as well. Okay, let's say that my total payment's like $500. Let's say that 100 is principal and 400 is interest. Now I'm going to indicate my class, 122 Buffalo Street, 122 Buffalo Street. Okay, so this is a really common way to do this. I got my class indicated here. I have interest, I have principal, save and close. Okay, I'm going to go back to total for a second. So if we just look at the total, you see I have $500 less dollars in checking. I just did an expense for 500 bucks. Okay, 100 of it went to my loan. So if I drill down onto this, I can see my starting balance minus 100. Here's my current balance, 206,400. And then negative 400 went to net income. Okay, now you probably caught a glimpse of it. When we do it by class, we have an issue. So when I look at 122 Buffalo Street, I have some showing up as not specified here. Okay, and so what I want to talk about is why this happens. This is the most common question I get. How is this showing up as not specified? I've obviously specified the class and the expense. In this expense, I indicate the class right here. Okay, so I'm going to talk about why this happens and ultimately why we really shouldn't worry about it. What we definitely should worry about is the value of our fixed assets and our long-term liabilities for a property. What we shouldn't worry about is the value of our bank accounts by property. I'm just telling you that it's going to get way too messy to try to care about this, okay? So let's talk about why this is happening. This is happening because every transaction within QuickBooks has two sides of it. Every transaction within QuickBooks is, in reality, a journal entry. However, we don't create that journal entry. What QuickBooks is doing with transaction types such as expenses and checks and bills and all this stuff is they're kind of giving us shortcuts. Okay, the shortcut is a little bit easier to fill out than a journal entry. I indicate who I pay, from what account it came, and then I have the line items here. What is happening in the background, though, is this is actually a 3-line journal entry. I'm going to demonstrate that in a second, but this is a 3-line journal entry. Line 1, negative $500 from the checking account. Line 2, $100 goes to the loan. Line 3, $400 goes to interest. I got debits, I have credits, they equal each other. I don't see that other side. This line 1 really shows up here. ID property management 500, ID property management 500, and then the other 2 lines down here. So in the background, a journal entry is created. What is happening in that background is that each line of that journal entry is not getting the class designation. These lines are, but this line is not. Okay, so let me show you the equivalent transaction as a journal entry. Okay, so I'm going to delete this transaction. Why don't I keep it? Why don't I just keep it and just do a mirroring one? Okay, so if I were to create a journal entry for the same type of expense, the ID property management account is going to be credited $500. $500 is leaving that account. Notice the class field here. Okay, I have interest. That is going to be, let's call it $395. And then my first position mortgage payment is $105. Now I'm going to add the class here. What we're looking at right now is the equivalent of what that expense is. This is what the expense does. It doesn't designate the class here. The main reason is because it doesn't know the split. It doesn't add multiple lines for each line of the split here to say, in theory, I could have a different class here. And it doesn't do the split up of this 500, it just has the 1. If there was multiple classes here, we need multiple classes on this as well. Now, in this journal entry, I can add 122 Buffalo Street. I can do that. But QuickBooks isn't going to give me that option on the expense. So if I save and close this, you're going to notice that that amount, actually, let me just go to my audit log quick. Yeah, I think we're good. 4/1/2017, yep. Okay, so if we go back to that report, you see that I have negative 500 per that class, and then I have the equivalent as not specified. So that same type of transaction, it showed up in the class when I did a journal entry. It did not show up in a class when I did not specify. Okay, so here's the deal. Are we going to do a journal entry every single time we pay a mortgage? No, I don't think you should. Okay. And so with that being said, I really just want you to not care about the bank value by class. And with that in mind, if and when you do have journal entries, including when I bought the property, don't tag the class. Okay. So this checking account, don't tag the class, because guess what? It's not really worthwhile to do. I definitely want my fixed assets and my liability to be tracked with the class, but honestly, it's going to lead to more confusion than anything if we track the class for these different transactions. Even my equity, I'm investing this equity. Okay, great. I can have the equity be to 122 Buffalo, but I do not recommend putting the class to anything with a checking account or a credit card. All right. And then I'm going to do that same thing with that journal entry. So we want almost all of our transactions by class to be not specified. And you might be, maybe I've had a lot of students want to kind of get a cash balance by property, but it's just kind of never going to work out and there's not much value in it. So you can have your cash balances be not specified and all the important stuff, including the fixed assets, my first position loan, and the equity I invested show up under the property. You're always going to get a net income by property. You're going to be good there. You're going to be able to see by property your net income. It's just the expense payment forms, the checking accounts and the credit cards that aren't going to line up. Okay? So the reason this is happening is that in the background of every transaction, whether it's a journal entry or not, QuickBooks is creating a journal entry. So even on expense, they're going to have those multiple lines, and it can't figure out that class distribution, that class split. And so you're always going to get that not specified. Knowing that, don't try to track your cash balances or your credit card balances by class. The same thing would happen if you're doing projects or customers, all right? This might be a little frustrating, but honestly, it was frustrating for me. It took me forever to figure out why this was the case. And once I kind of realized, hey, it's all going to be not specified, that's fine. I don't need to track my cash balance for my bank accounts by property. It's really useless to me. I need to know fixed assets, liabilities, equity, net income, and I'm going to be able to see all that here. Okay, so I'm guessing this is going to stir up a few comments and questions on how this all works, but I needed to get this out there because this is really the most common question I'm getting these days is people that are taking the course and getting really advanced in this and I really think are doing great are having a question about why is this not specified showing up all the time. All right, so let me know if you have questions about this. Happy to answer them or potentially go into detail on additional videos. All right. So if you have any questions or thoughts, leave a comment here. Check out all the free resources we have available at incomedigs.com. Certainly check out Real Estate Accounting Bootcamp and our new course that we're launching really, really shortly, which is Super VA, how to find, hire, and superpower your virtual assistant. Really appreciate you being here. I'll see you on the next video.